It is your host with the most, Shadow Loke, back at you with another video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's free. It don't cost anything. You'll help my channel get into the algorithm. I would highly appreciate it. Now, what I wanted to talk about was something I got asked for. Well, I actually was having a conversation with two of my subscribers on my other channel, Jamie and the homie Sal. Shout out to the homie Sal. And they were telling me what are my thoughts on the whole Ukraine, Biden and Donald Trump, the state of the economy, and the tensions between countries, and do I see a World War III happening, right? We'll get started with the first topic, right? Which is Donald Trump and Biden. Now, it's no secret, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I don't believe in none of that crap. I believe it's all the same bull crap, you know what I mean? We're just pawns in the game. So I'm neither left nor right? And I'm not liberal, nor am I a conservative, none of that. I just don't believe in our overall government no more. Right? So I don't have no horse in the race when it comes to neither side. But it's no secret that Biden's a horrible president. Clearly, he suffers some type of, dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that, right? They just don't want to say. But clearly, he's not all there. So they haven't been doing a good job at all. Now, just because he hasn't been doing a good job, and and people are very disappointed and outraged at the overall decisions of the government, does not mean that Donald Trump is a better choice or a better candidate, or that he was a good president. It doesn't mean that. All right? Donald Trump, in my opinion, is not fit to be president neither. Just because one president is like this doesn't mean that now this guy, is a salvation or that he speaks the truth. One of the things that Donald Trump has that I have a problem with him is that he tends to feed a lot into the conspiracies, into the misleading propaganda, right? Because it interests him, right? Because Donald Trump is not the type of person that likes to, I know people say, look at his wealth and everything. It was inherited, all right? All his business that he ever tried to do on his own, look it up, I'm not lying, have gone bankrupt, bro. He can't come with no good ideas himself. Everything he has is because of his father. Facts. You know what I mean? Because everything he tried to do on his own has flopped. And that's because Donald Trump is the person who doesn't like to sit down and actually educate himself about stuff that he doesn't find interesting. If it's boring, he's not going to do it. You know what I mean? So he'd rather go into these videos and propaganda and because he likes that, it makes more sense to him than actually, reading documents and stuff like that. It's true. You know what I mean? So he falls into all that, propaganda and stuff like that. And he comes out and, saying all these reckless things that is like, bro, educate yourself. How you the president of the United States and over here spreading false narratives? My God, it was so reckless. And like I said, I think both presidents are crap. You know what I mean? Yeah, my personal opinion. Now, so, when it comes to him giving his, rallies and stuff like that, obviously he's going to want to, belittle, Biden, his administration, all of that, right? Because he wants to make himself look good. And one of Donald Trump's, key tactics is always the fear tactic, right? Scaring the, the masses, making them think, that this and this is going on and stuff like that. And one of the things that he was out there saying was the whole NATO and BRICS, conflict, and it's falling apart. And you even have Saudi Arabia and Iran now, coming to the table, for talks, one thing that I'm going to say about NATO and BRIC, right? NATO obviously being the North Atlantic, treaty organization, right? Which is built up of like 29 countries, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's, Albania, Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, Croatia, uh, Denmark, um, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Italy, uh, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Montenegro, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Turkey, the UK, and the United States. I think is who makes up all of NATO. I could be, maybe I left one out or two. I'm not too sure. But that's the nucleus of NATO, right? Now, what is NATO? NATO is, all these countries, helping each other, right? So basically, if you attack one country, you attack all the countries. So if you want war with one of these countries, you have war with all of these countries, right? And they do also have allies who are not a part of NATO, but who, are allies. Like, for example, Australia, New Zealand, Ukraine, and another one is oh no, I think that's it. Or is it no Vietnamese too? Right. So or also you have to add them onto the mix, right? And who is BRIC? BRIC is basically India, Brazil, China, Russia, and South Africa. And then you have semi, roughly, rocky relationship with Iran, North Korea, and Saudi Arabia. Now, it's a known fact. India and China do not like each other. They don't. They share borders. There's been tensions and even deaths, and war between these countries, right? China does not like Russia. That's another thing that people don't understand. Although you see them, supporting each other because of the Ukraine war, whatever, they have different views and different stands on a lot of things, right? But they come and work together for necessity, right? It's no surprise. I mean, even the United States does business with China and Russia. You know what I'm saying? So people can't be like, oh my God, all that surprise. So now BRIC is not the same thing. BRIC just helps out each other financially, right? But not when it comes to war. Like, so if you attack one country, the rest of the countries don't have to get involved, right? Basically, all these countries are the dictator countries, pues, you know what I mean? All the ones that are ruled by strict, governments who are pretty much, slaving their people and try to act like kings. I mean, their flags in itself says everything. Look at the NATO flag, right? They chose a symbol and for all these countries to fall under and represent and stuff like that. BRICS flag, you can see the narcissists in these individuals. That their country just had to be on the flag. You can't leave their countries out, and the name must be in their name must be attached to the actual name of the thing, right? Because they want to be in the spotlight. Because if they come down to a symbol, who came up with the symbol? Why do you get to come up with the symbol? You're dealing with these egomaniacs, right? When it comes to these countries, so you know what I mean? It's crazy. So they just help out each other financially, right? Wise, right? Because they have different views than the West, right? Like the United States and them, right? They don't believe in giving their people so much freedom. You know what I mean? So, one of the problems that they have with NATO and these countries is that the freedom that their people have, right? And now influencing their countries, right? Where now their people want to be free and have these rights, and these governments are not able to coexist with their people having these rights. They're just not. You know what I mean? They want to be rulers and dictators and shit like that. And so now with NATO spreading throughout the world and getting closer and closer to their homelands, they don't like the fact that all this freedom is being spread around. You know what I mean? Because now they feel like their rule is now in jeopardy, right? Because now they could be overthrown by their people. Because remember, the people have the power, not the governments. And they're aware of this, that's why they fear it. Another thing I'm going to say is that they were once thought to be a superpower, right? But with the Ukraine and Russia war, clearly Russia is not a global power like people thought it was, right? And that's the problem with dictators. When you're a dictator and you're an asshole to your people are not going to want to fight for you. That's why a lot of Russian soldiers have abandoned their tanks, abandoned their weaponry, abandoned the whole entire war, and even flipped because there's a lot of corruption and chaos within these countries, right? So when they talk about the NATO versus BRIC or versus these countries, I mean, yes, there'll be casualties, and yes, it'll be like a big war or whatever, but they don't stand a chance, bro. You know what I mean? Not only military wise, right? Because people say, "Oh my God, it's a threat that Saudi Arabia and Iran, now are coming to the table for for talks," right? First of all, Saudi Arabia and Iran they don't like each other, right? But the reason why they had to come to the table that people are not talking about is that Iran and Saudi Arabia have had issues. Saudi Arabia doesn't have a military like that. It does not have a military like that, right? The only thing that was stopping Iran from attacking Saudi Arabia was that we were cool with Saudi Arabia, right? So if Iran tried to do anything to Saudi Arabia, it would be met by, punishment by the United States. So that's why they chose to, never attack, but they've been wanting to, right? And Saudi Arabia knows this, right? But now with you know, the disagreements between Saudi Arabia and the United States, right? It it's only right for Saudi Arabia to meet up with Iran and talk, because they know if they go to war with Iran, Saudi Arabia will lose, bro. Because Iran has, a semi-good military. Saudi Arabia has no military, so they will get they will get demolished. So, it's out of necessity that they come to the table with these individuals. Same why these other countries, come to the table and talk and all that. It's not that they like each other, but out of necessity, right? Because they view the West form of thinking as a threat, right? So these guys are more like them. So they don't like each other, but yet they got to come to the table because, what is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So don't think it's peaches and cream just because these people are talking and stuff like that. And another country that people add to the equation is North Korea, right? Except the thing is that Russia and China do not like North Korea because the guy Kim Jong Un is a nut. He's unstable. He's not. You can't really talk sense into him. You know what I mean? Obviously they do trades with them and they talk and stuff like that because he's another dictator, that it's a necessity, it's a must, right, for financial means, right, in order to keep their economies going, that they feel like they have to do business with the guy, but if they had a choice they wouldn't. And that's no secret, they made that shit public plenty of times, of how reckless he is. And like I said, same with China and Russia. But like I said, it's a necessity. It's why they talk. It's not because they actually have this good friendship now and are, compadres and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They're aiding Russia in the Ukraine war, but by just little things. They could potentially, help Russia in a lot of things, right? But they choose not to because you think that they really want to, boost up Russia's military. They know that if they boost up their military, that they're not safe from Russia's wrath either. You know what I mean? Because they don't know what Russia might do. You get what I mean? Because there's been conflicts and battles between the countries, between Russia and China before, you know what I mean? And India and China as well. They share borders where they're still fighting for the border themselves, even though they're a part of BRIC. It's understanding the dynamics between countries and the diplomacies and how everything goes, right? It's a lot more deeper than just what Donald Trump is out there speaking, acting like he knows what he's talking about when he has no idea. And that's that's an ex-president of the United States, for heaven's sakes. It's ridiculous. Like in NATO, people say it's falling apart. We have some of the greatest allies of all time. France, the UK, Portugal, Spain. Not only that, but Poland. Poland became a big power within the between Europe. You know what I mean? It's now a powerhouse. You know what I mean? Then you got Germany as well. So you have powerhouses within the NATO alliance. That's a lot of countries, bro. Even though BRIC does have a lot of manpower because these countries are the most populated, right? Like China, like India, like Russia, right? Because they have big ass lands and stuff like that. But like I said, since they're under the rule of dictators, their countries are in chaos, and there's a lot of rebelling, and you have a lot of people who don't want to fight for these assholes. You get what I mean? So, do I think that there might be a World War III? Potentially, yes. Potentially, yes. You don't know, what these men are capable of because they're, you know, unstable narcissists. You know what I mean? Who will do anything to stay in power by any means. You know what I mean? Um, but at the same time, they're not stupid. The United States is a powerhouse, bro, and they know that. I'm not saying that they're scared of the United States, but they know that it's a war that they potentially can't win. You know what I mean? China hasn't been in an actual war in a long ass time. It's barely souping up its military, but we haven't seen their military in action because they haven't been in a war in forever. Look at Russia. Russia was a powerhouse. They hadn't been in a war for a while. Bam. They go to war with a little ass country like Ukraine, and they're getting their asses handed to them by a country who had no military, hardly no tanks, no jets, no nothing, and they can't even handle them. They've been at war for a year already, and they haven't gained no land. And look at the casualties. If you think I'm lying, educate yourself on the subject. Go look it up. How many soldiers, tanks, and jets and all that Russia has lost? A lot. And to a bunch of people who are just equipped with what the United States has sent them, and just their, elbow grease, the sweat off their backs. And they've been able to hand Russia their asses. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to win the war, the war's over. I'm just saying, that this is, unheard of. People thought that Russia was going to win like that. But then they realized, damn, that their equipment was outdated. Their commanders didn't even know what they were doing. A lot of them have even lost their lives. It's crazy. Brazil is just, their military is just, it's not all that either. India's military is, up to par, so they got a pretty good military. And they have had wars and issues, so their military has actually seen action, due to, their relationship with Pakistan and all of that, you know what I mean? All the conflicts and issues that they have going on. And the United States is always at war, so, we're always on top of our shit. Oh, and Canada too, because they help a lot. UK too, they do a lot of, missions together, as well as, Australia. So, before anybody attacks any of these NATO countries, they have a lot, because they're not just, like I said, attacking one, they're attacking all of these countries. And do you really want to go up against all these countries? And that's why Russia and all these guys don't like NATO, don't like these individuals, because you have so many countries that have already jumped on board, right? Because, they're pushing the greater good message, and these people don't like it. But like I said, in this world, there's more good people than bad people. You know what? One of the greatest sayings that was said is that people should not worry, for dictators die. And as long as dictators die, then people will never be enslaved, right? Pretty much meaning that, it's just because these individuals are here, but they're not here forever, right? And there's more good people than bad people, so all the bad people will die, and then there's a chance that more of a chance that a good person will land into sea than a bad person, because overall there's more. But overall, that's just my breakdown on the overall issue. It's not something that I would tell people that they should worry about, because in reality, we got nothing to sweat. You know what I mean? Clearly the war in Ukraine and Russia, proves it all, bro. If they can't even handle a little country like Ukraine, bro, but no military, what are they really going to do against the United States? I'm just saying, Shadow, we out.